The broken gift commander Jace stood tall among the crowd. Humans and aliens both clapped for him. He had just won the Battle of Mirror 7, saving thousands of lives. The Alien Alliance respected him. But some of them envied him to dot after the ceremony. A tall alien general with silver skin walked up to him. He smiled in a strange way. Holding a small cage-like container, a gift for you, great human warrior. The alien said with a mocking tone. Inside the container sat a girl, thin, quiet, and covered in dust. Her skin was pale blue, her long white hair tangled. She looked broken, like an old doll thrown away. Her eyes were empty, glowing faintly. She is one of the last royals from the fallen planet of Orionis, the general added, laughing. She doesn't talk, doesn't fight, completely useless, but maybe you can train her like a pet. The aliens around them laughed. Jace felt anger rise in his chest, but he didn't show it. He looked at the girl. She didn't move. She didn't even look up. Most people would have turned away. But Jace didn't. I'll take her, he said quietly. Jace brought her to his ship. He gave her food and water, but she didn't eat. He spoke to her, but she never answered. He named her Nova after a star that explodes and shines brighter than anything in the sky. Every night, Nova sat in the corner of her room. She didn't sleep, didn't move, like a machine waiting to die. Jace wondered who she really was. Why had the aliens given her to him like a joke? And what had happened to her? One night, unable to sleep, he checked on her. The door opened slowly. He expected to see the same empty look, but this time, Nova's back was turned to him. And then he heard something soft. She was crying, not loudly, not with tears, but tiny gasps, like a machine breaking inside. Jay stepped forward. He didn't say anything. He just sat on the floor beside her, leaving a small blanket near her side. He didn't know if she understood kindness. He didn't know if she felt anything at all. But as he turned to leave, Nova did something unexpected. She looked up. For the first time, her eyes met his. They weren't empty. They were full of something else: fear, confusion, pain, and something deeper, something locked away. She didn't speak. But her eyes said, help me. The next day, Jace began slow training. He didn't treat her like a soldier. He treated her like a student. He showed her how to move her hands, how to lift a spoon, how to walk with balance. She followed him like a shadow. She didn't speak, but she copied every motion, every step. Some soldiers on the base laughed behind his back. They called him crazy, training a broken alien girl like a child, they whispered. But Jace didn't care. Nova was learning slowly, silently, but learning. A week later, something strange happened. They were on the edge of the base. Jace was checking supplies when a small training drone went out of control. It flew fast toward Jace, sharp, spinning blades ready to strike. Before Jace could move, Nova stepped in front of him. Her hand shot out. Crash. The drone exploded against the wall. Nova had moved faster than any human. She stood in front of Jace, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her chest rose and fell like she had just woken up from a long dream. Jace stared at her, shocked. Nova, are you okay? She didn't answer. Then she turned slowly. Her lips moved for the first time. She whispered one word, Jace. Silence filled the room. She had spoken. Her voice was soft, robotic, but real. Jace knelt beside her. You remember my name? Nova looked at him and nodded. Once. Her eyes were still glowing, but calmer now. That night, Jace watched the stars outside the window. The girl they called broken was not broken. She was scared, lost, maybe damaged, but not useless. And now, something inside her had awakened. He didn't know who had hurt her, or why the alien generals wanted her gone. But Jace made a promise to himself that night. He would find out the truth. He would help Nova become what she was meant to be, not a joke, not a slave, but something far more powerful. Something the galaxy would never forget. She remembers pain. Jace had heard his name many times before from commanders, soldiers, even enemies. But when she said it, it felt different, not just a word, a connection. Nova stood quietly in front of him. Her eyes glowed softly, her lips still trembling from that single word, Jace. He didn't move, didn't speak. He was afraid that if he said something, the moment would break, like glass under pressure. But Nova didn't break. She just looked at him like a child seeing safety for the first time. Jace slowly reached out, offering his hand. She stared at it. Then, carefully, she placed her hand in his. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but she didn't let go. Over the next few days, something changed. Nova began to move with more awareness. She still didn't speak again, but she followed Jace closely. She mimicked his movements, learned how to use basic tools, how to walk, sit, and even how to eat with a spoon slowly, like she was remembering a forgotten life. Her strength was growing too. Jace noticed it in small ways. Once, he handed her a metal plate. She held it with one hand easily, too easily. The plate bent slightly under her grip. She didn't even realize it. Jace wrote everything down. Nova wasn't just recovering, she was evolving. But with every new ability, Nova also grew quieter. Like something heavy was growing inside her, something dark. At night, she stopped sleeping. Instead, she stood by the window staring into the stars. Once, Jace approached her and gently asked, "What do you see out there?" She didn't turn, but she whispered, so soft it was almost part of the wind, fire. The next day, Jace decided to take a risk. He brought Nova to the training hall, an empty, high-ceiling chamber used by elite soldiers. He didn't hand her a weapon, he simply stepped back and said, "Show me what you can do." She stood still for a moment. Her eyes scanned the room like she'd been there before. Then she moved fast. She flipped forward, landed silently, spun and kicked the air, like a dancer trained from birth. Jace was stunned. It wasn't random movement, it was combat. Not just any combat, royal guard techniques. Techniques lost for over a decade. When she stopped, she looked at Jace, sweat on her brow, eyes glowing faint blue. He stepped forward, stunned. "Who taught you that?" Nova blinked, then whispered again, "I don't know." Her hands trembled. Then suddenly, she grabbed her head. She fell to her knees. Jace rushed forward. "Nova." Her body shook, her eyes flashed blue, then white, then back to blue. She was remembering something, and it was hurting her. Her voice came out cracked, too much fire. Screams, they burned. Jace held her shoulders. "It's okay, you're safe." Nova gasped, tears slipping from her glowing eyes, and then she said it, "They killed my mother." Jace froze. Nova had never said anything about her past. This was the first real memory. "Who?" he asked gently. Nova shook her head. "I don't know, they wore black armor, no faces. They took me from the Sky Palace, said I was a weapon, then darkness." Jace felt a chill. This wasn't just about trauma. Someone had erased her past on purpose. Whoever those people were, they didn't want Nova to remember. And that meant only one thing, she was dangerous. Later that night, Jace checked Nova's blood sample. He had taken one earlier for health monitoring. What he saw nearly made him drop the datapad. Her DNA wasn't just alien royal, it was modified. Someone had embedded tech locks inside her cells. Jace had heard of this before. Illegal tech used to hide memories, control minds, even suppress powers. Nova wasn't just a girl. She was a weapon that had been locked away, a broken sword meant to never be used again. But she was waking up now, and someone out there might already know. The warning came 3 days later. A message appeared in Jace's secure comm system. Untraceable. Black screen. Red text, "Stop training the girl, return her to orbit." Command. "You don't know what you're holding." Jace stared at it, then deleted it without a word. Nova had saved his life. She was trying to find herself. He wouldn't let anyone treat her like a thing again, but Nova saw the message too. And her face changed. She looked at Jace, voice quiet but full of fear. "They found me that night." Nova had another dream. She stood in a burning palace. Soldiers in black armor stormed the halls. Her mother screamed her name as the doors closed. Nova ran to her, but something grabbed her neck, a hand, metal, cold. She woke up screaming. Jace rushed in. But Nova had already jumped to the corner of the room. Her body glowed with light, forming strange symbols on her skin. She looked at him, but her eyes were blank, like she was in another world. Double quotes Nova, Jace said carefully, "It's me, you're safe." "You're not there anymore." Her breath slowed. The symbols faded. She collapsed into his arms. Softly, she asked, "Who am I really?" Jace didn't answer because now he wasn't sure anymore. But deep inside him, he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just about healing a broken girl anymore. It was about unlocking a legend, and legends always come with enemies. The training begins. Sky above the outpost was dark to dark. Even the stars seemed to hide that night. Commander Jace stood at the edge of the training field, watching Nova from a distance. She was standing perfectly still, barefoot, silent, eyes closed, but around her, the ground was cracking, tiny ripples of energy pushing out with each breath she took. Jace had trained soldiers for over a decade. He had seen humans, cyborgs, mutants, some fast, some smart, some deadly, but Nova was none of those. She was something new. 2 weeks had passed since the warning message. No other signals came, but Jace felt it, eyes watching them from somewhere far above. Nova hadn't spoken much since her memory returned, but something inside her had changed. She no longer feared her own strength. Now, she wanted to understand it. "I want to learn," she told Jace one morning. "Everything." So he trained her. First, he taught her balance, how to control her speed and strength, then combat techniques, defense, counters, precision, and finally, focus, how to calm her mind when the memories returned. What shocked Jace most wasn't her power, it was her learning speed. She watched every move once, and then she mastered it. Within days, she moved like a veteran fighter. But even as Nova's body grew sharper, her eyes told a different story: pain, confusion, and something deeper, like a storm trapped under ice. One night, during meditation, Training, Nova asked something strange. Why do humans smile when they're sad? Jace paused. He didn't expect the question. Maybe, he said. Because they want others to believe they're okay, even when they're not. Nova nodded slowly. Then whispered, I used to smile too, before they took me. Jace wanted to ask more, but stopped himself. She wasn't ready yet, but she would be soon. A few days later, Jace decided to test her under pressure. He brought her to the sim room, a holographic chamber that could create battle scenarios. This isn't real, he told her, but your mind will think it is. Do you understand? Nova nodded once. He loaded a memory sim, a burning palace, shadow soldiers. The same dream she kept having. Nova stepped into the fire without hesitation. The simulation began. Screams echoed, smoke filled the air, black armored soldiers appeared. No faces, no voices, just death. Jace watched from the control panel, ready to shut it off if things got out of hand. But Nova didn't freeze. She charged. She moved through the enemies like lightning, her hands glowing with sharp energy blades. Her strikes were fast, clean to precise to be accidental. It wasn't just instinct. It was training, real training from her past life. She's remembering, Jace whispered to himself. But then something unexpected happened. A new soldier appeared in the sim, taller, darker, different from the rest. Nova stopped. Her entire body tensed. You, she said, voice shaking. The soldier raised a hand and suddenly Nova collapsed to her knees, screaming. Jace shut off the simulation. Nova lay on the floor, shaking violently. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked at Jace and said, he's real. That one wasn't part of the program. He's real. Later, Jace checked the simulation logs. The tall soldier wasn't in the code. He hadn't been part of the training scenario. Someone had hacked into the system. Someone was trying to reach Nova's mind or control it. She wasn't safe anymore. And neither was he. That night, a secret message appeared on Jace's personal terminal. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a face, a human face, a woman. Commander Jace, the voice said. You don't know me, but I know what she is. I helped build her before I defected. They lied to you. Nova isn't just a princess or a weapon. She's the key to a dormant system, something ancient, something buried under the ruins of Orionis, and they're coming. They'll take her back or kill her to keep it buried. The message ended with coordinates and one last line. Train her faster. You don't have much time. Jace deleted the message. He walked into Nova's room where she was sharpening a training blade. Nova, he said, how do you feel about leaving this planet? She looked up. Am I ready? Jace didn't smile. He just said, no, but we're leaving anyway. The next day, they flew off-world in silence. Nova sat by the window, staring at the stars. Jace, she said after a long pause, I had another dream. What did you see? She hesitated. I saw a planet waking up, and voices. Not speaking but calling me. What were they saying? Nova's eyes narrowed. They said, wake the core, complete the code. Remember the queen. Jace looked at her, his voice calm but firm. Then let's go find out what they mean. And outside the ship, beyond the dark of space, something ancient stirred. Waiting, watching. And remembering her. Asterisk, a secret inside her mind. Space was silent. But inside Nova's head, something was screaming. She sat in the back of Jace's ship, eyes closed, fists tight. Every breath was slower than the last, as if she was holding something back, not pain, not fear. A memory. Jace glanced back at her from the cockpit. They had been flying toward the old ruins on Xylem 3 for 2 days. The coordinates from the mystery message had led them here. An abandoned planet once part of the Orionis royal system. Now just ash and rock. We're close, Jace said, but the readings are strange. It's like the ruins are alive. Nova opened her eyes slowly. They are? Jace turned, confused. What do you mean? Nova touched the side of her head. I don't know how I know, but they're calling me. They landed near a crater filled with shattered marble, dead trees, and broken towers. Nova stepped out first, as her boots hit the ground. The stones beneath her pulsed with faint blue light. Jace watched carefully. It's reacting to you. Nova nodded slowly, like she expected this. She walked toward a large gate, half buried under rubble. She reached out to touch it. But the moment her hand touched the metal, everything changed. A flash, a pulse of light. Jace was thrown back. Nova's body froze. Her eyes rolled back. She collapsed to her knees. Jace ran to her. Nova? But she didn't hear him. She was no longer there. Inside her mind, Nova stood alone. A silver hallway stretched in every direction, endless and cold, and then she saw her mother. Tall, graceful, wearing glowing white armor, standing in the center of a burning throne room. Nova tried to speak, but her voice didn't work. Her mother turned to her, eyes full of sadness. My Nova, she whispered. You were never meant to awaken like this. Nova's voice returned barely. Where am I? A memory, the queen said, not a dream. Not a lie, this is the truth, your truth. The walls around them melted away. revealing another scene, a laboratory. Nova, much younger, lay on a table, machines around her. Strange figures stood over her, arguing. She's unstable, one said. She's the key, another insisted. Nova watched, horrified, as she saw herself being modified, her blood replaced with light. Her mind split and sealed by technology older than most civilizations. The Queen's voice came again. They didn't just hide your power, they broke it, locked pieces of you across time and space. Why? Nova asked. Because you carry a code, something they fear, something they lost long ago. The core, Nova's breath caught. What is the core? Her mother stepped closer, eyes glowing. A living weapon, created by the Orionis bloodline to end wars forever. But they feared it would become a god or a monster. Nova shook her head. I don't want to be a weapon. Her mother smiled gently, then become something else, something more. But how? Her mother leaned in. Wake up, Nova gasped. She was back in the ruins, on the ground. Trembling, Jace was holding her shoulders. Nova, can you hear me? She nodded slowly. I saw her, she whispered. My mother, she showed me what they did. I was created. Jace looked confused. Created? Nova stood, more stable now. They didn't just lock my memories. They split my mind into 3 fragments. They feared what I'd become. So where are the other fragments? Jace asked. Nova looked up at the cracked sky. Not here. That night, as they camped in the ruins, Nova sat beside the dying fire. Jace, she said quietly. Yeah, if I become something dangerous, something you can't stop, will you end me? Jace didn't answer right away. No, he finally said. I'll find a way to bring you back, not destroy you. Nova smiled for the first time in weeks. Wrong answer, but thank you. They didn't know it yet, but someone else had arrived on the planet. A ship hovered high above the clouds. Cloaked. Inside, a figure watched the ruins through red scanners. He wore no armor. No insignia, just a black robe and a silver device round his neck. Subject, Nova has accessed Fragment 1, he said into a communicator. Begin protocol, Shadow Hunt. A robotic voice replied. Target will not survive past Fragment 2. The figure smirked. We'll see. Next morning, Nova and Jace entered the lower ruins. Ancient machines lined the walls, silent, lifeless, until Nova walked past, one by one. The machines lit up, scanning her. A panel opened in the wall, revealing an orb pulsing with the same light in Nova's eyes. What is it? Jace asked. Nova stepped closer. A piece of me, she said. As she touched it, her body jolted. Memories poured into her mind, faces of people she once knew, a star map, a message from the Orionis High Council, and a name whispered by a voice not her own, Carnix. Nova collapsed again, but this time she didn't pass out. She stood slowly, her hands glowing bright blue. They're coming, she said. Who? Jace asked. Nova's eyes burned brighter. The ones who built me, and now they want me back. The first battle storm came without warning. Thick black clouds rolled across the sky of Xylon 3, covering the ruined planet in darkness. Wind howled like a warning. Machines buried in the ground began to hum, ancient tech sensing what was approaching. Jace stood near the ship, weapon in hand, scanning the horizon. Nova was inside the ruins, sitting cross-legged, meditating. Her hands glowed softly, her body still. Then she opened her eyes. They're here. Above them, a sleek black ship descended, silent, no lights, no markings. It hovered like a shadow, then opened. 5 figures dropped down. They wore no faces, only reflective silver masks. Their suits were matte black, not military, something worse. Hunters. Jace raised his blaster. Nova, stay inside. Nova stood behind him now, her voice calm. They're not here for you, that's why I'm not letting them take you. The lead hunter stepped forward. His voice came through a filtered speaker, calm and cold. Nova of Orionis, you have reconnected with Fragment 1, return with us, or be neutralized. Nova tilted her head. And if I say no, then you will be erased. Nova stepped beside Jace. She wasn't trembling, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. The hunters struck first. A plasma spear shot toward Jace. But Nova raised her hand. A glowing shield of blue energy formed instantly, catching the blast. Jace blinked. You've never done that before. Nova didn't look away. I've never needed to. The ground cracked beneath her as she launched forward. What happened next didn't look like a fight. It looked like a dance of destruction. Nova moved faster than sight, her fists glowing with pure energy. Each hit sent shockwaves through the air. The hunters fought back with precision, trained, heartless, efficient. But Nova wasn't just a fighter, she was evolving. Every time they struck, she adapted, redirected, countered, learned. Jace covered from behind, shooting carefully, trying not to get in her way. Nova grabbed one hunter, slammed him into the ground and pressed her hand to his mask. A surge of light flashed. The mask cracked. Underneath wasn't a face, it was a machine. They're not human, Nova said. They're not anything, Jace muttered. The others circled her now, weapons drawn. A high-pitched sound came from their suits. Jace covered his ears. Nova screamed. Her body flickered with light. Frequency disruptor, Jace shouted. They're trying to shut you down. Nova dropped to her knees, gripping her head. We must extract the core, one hunter said. Begin phase 2. One raised a silver blade aimed at her heart. But just as he brought it down, she caught it with one hand, and then she stood. Her eyes were no longer blue. They were white, burning, endless. You want the core, she said, her voice deeper, layered with echoes. Then take it, she exploded. A pulse of light knocked every hunter backward. Even Jace was thrown off his feet. Nova rose into the air, hands spread, her hair floated like fire. Her body shone with symbols, ancient, alien, beautiful. The ground around her cracked, ruins shook. Machines reactivated from centuries of silence. She was awake. The hunters regrouped, but now they looked unsure. One of them tried to speak. Subject Nova terminate. Nova appeared in front of him. Before he could finish, her hand pierced his chest. He sparked, collapsed. Another leapt at her with dual blades. Nova moved like water, dodging, spinning, striking with light-infused kicks and punches. Her attacks were not brutal, they were elegant, efficient. Final. 3 more fell. The last one retreated. Nova landed softly beside Jace. Don't let him go, she said. Jace raised his rifle, but Nova had already moved. She reached the final hunter, grabbed him by the neck, and pulled something from his suit, a black crystal chip. The hunter collapsed. Nova turned to Jace, holding the chip. This contains data, she said. Coordinates, memories, maybe even answers. Can you read it? Not alone. They returned to the ship. Jace studied the chip under a scanner. It's encrypted, alien tech hybrid. I've never seen anything like it. Nova placed her palm over it. Instantly, the lights dimmed. A hologram appeared in the air, flickering, broken, but clear enough to understand. A woman appeared, older, with short white hair and glowing implants. If you're seeing this, then Nova has awakened. I was part of the original project. Before it was buried, before the betrayals. They fear her because she is the last of the Sovereign Code, the living key to a machine hidden beneath Orionis Prime. The machine doesn't just end wars, it can reset them, but the code is incomplete. Nova must reclaim her other fragments before she can survive what comes next. One fragment remains buried in the heart of the dead moon. But be warned, she is not the only one waking up. The message ended. Nova sat in silence. A machine that resets war, Jace said. What does that mean? Nova answered softly. I think it means if I die, the galaxy burns. If I survive, everything changes. Jace looked at her, his voice low. Then we make sure you survive. Outside the ship, the ground where Nova had stood still pulsed with faint light. The ruins whispered to the stars above. A lost princess had made her first stand. And somewhere far away, in the heart of an old warship buried deep in space, something else opened its eyes. Not friendly. Not afraid. But hungry. Asked the truth of her bloodline. Dead moon didn't orbit anything anymore. Long ago, it had belonged to the Orionis Empire, a silver jewel circling a thriving world. Now, that world was gone, burned in the war. And the moon floated alone through space, a drifting graveyard. Nova stared at it through the viewport of Jace's ship. The surface was cracked, fractured by ancient weapons. It looked quiet, but she could feel something beneath the surface pulling her. You sure this is where we'll find the last fragment? Jace asked. Nova nodded. This moon is more than a tomb. It was built as a vault, for secrets even kings were afraid of. Jace leaned closer. You mean, your family? Nova turned to him, expression unreadable. My bloodline didn't rule the stars, they designed them. They landed in a narrow canyon of black stone. The silence was deep, thick enough to feel like a weight on the chest. Nova stepped down first. Her boots hit the ground like thunder in the quiet. Jace followed, scanning the area. No signs of life or tech. Nova pointed to a jagged cliff wall. It's not on the surface. She placed her hand on the rock. Instantly, glowing lines spread from her fingers, alien symbols lighting up the stone like veins of fire. A doorway opened. And inside, darkness. But Nova walked in unafraid. The inside was a tomb. Walls of smooth obsidian, carved with symbols Jace couldn't read. A long hallway stretched down, lit only by the faint glow of Nova's presence. You know this place, Jace said quietly. Nova nodded. I've never seen it, but I remember at the end of the hall was a chamber. A throne. And a body. Nova stepped forward slowly. The body was skeletal, but its armor still gleamed silver and deep blue, etched with the sigil of the Orionis royal bloodline. Nova knelt beside it. Double quotes father. Double quotes Jace stopped in shock. Your father died here. Nova's voice was quiet. He brought me here when I was still a child, before they took me. This was the place we were never supposed to find. Not even the council knew about it. She reached forward and touched a glowing device resting on the body's chest. The room reacted. Walls shifted. Lights activated. A platform rose from the ground, and above it a memory crystal, glowing violet, rotating slowly. Nova's breath caught. My final fragment, she stepped toward it. But just before her fingers touched it, a voice echoed through the room, "Step back." Jace raised his blaster instantly. "Who's there?" from the shadows. A figure emerged, tall, pale, wearing robes of dark crimson. "Not machine, not fully human either. I warned you once, Commander," the figure said. "You've gone too far." Nova narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" The figure smiled. "I am the Keeper. I was created to protect the truth your family tried to erase." Nova stepped in front of Jace. "You were built by the core?" "No," the Keeper replied. "I was built by your ancestors when they feared what you would become." "What am I?" The Keeper's eyes glowed faint red. "You are the last key. The final queen, and if you awaken fully this galaxy dies." A wave of heat filled the room. Nova's hair lifted, her hands started to glow but not blue this time, white-gold. Jace grabbed her arm. "Nova, wait, he's stalling. He doesn't want you to take the fragment." "Because he knows what happens if I do," Nova said. "I stop being who they made me, and become who I was born to be." She turned back to the Keeper. "You said I could destroy the galaxy." "Yes, then you're afraid of me." "I'm afraid of what will come looking for you once you're whole." Nova didn't flinch. She reached forward, and grabbed the crystal. Everything stopped. Jace saw light explode from Nova's chest, symbols flashing across her skin faster than he could track. Nova screamed, not in pain, but in release. The chamber shook, the ceiling cracked. The skeleton on the throne disintegrated. And Nova fell to her knees, eyes wide, tears streaming down her cheeks. Jace rushed to her side. Nova, what happened?" She looked up at him. And for the first time, she spoke clearly, firmly, powerfully. "I remember everything." What she remembered was worse than anything they expected. Nova wasn't just royal. She wasn't just a weapon. She was the blueprint. Her family had created a system, an ancient AI structure, called the Core Sovereign, built to regulate peace across the galaxy. But when the Council lost control of it, they panicked. Nova, the only direct genetic key, was still a child. So they split her mind, locked away her memory, and gave her to enemies hoping she'd disappear. But now she was whole again. And the Sovereign Core would know. And wake. Nova stood. "We have to go, now." Jace grabbed his rifle. "What is it?" Nova's voice was low. "I'm not the weapon, I'm the trigger. And the weapon is about to wake up." As they ran toward the exit, the moon shook. Huge cracks opened in the canyon floor, and from the depths below, something rose. A massive machine, half buried, thousands of years old. Its eye lit up deep red, scanning Nova. It spoke in a voice that echoed across the stars. "Sovereign code detected, full system reboot initiated, awaiting final command." Nova stared into the eye. "I don't even know what the command is." But the machine responded, "You will." Asterisk, becoming the legend. Sovereign Core stood awake beneath the broken moon. A titan of black steel and red light, buried for thousands of years, now fully online. Nova stood before it, small, alone, glowing. Above her, the voice of the machine thundered, "Sal signature verified, command accepted, Queen Nova of Orionis, the waiting final order." Jace stood beside her, breath shallow, weapon lowered. "What does that mean? What happens if you give it the final command?" Nova's voice trembled. "I don't know. No one ever finished the design. The Sovereign was never meant to be used. It wasn't a weapon. It was a rewrite." "System rewrite?" Jace asked. Nova looked at him. "A reset button for the galaxy." Far above, sensors across dozens of empires lit up. The Sovereign's signal had returned. Fleets launched, commanders panicked, secret orders moved through dark channels. The prophecy wasn't a myth. The lost daughter of Orionis was awake, and she was about to make a decision that could end history. On the moon's surface, the sky opened again. 3 warships dropped out of warp, black, red, and gold, each from different powers, all sworn enemies. But this time, they were united by fear. "Target confirmed," one voice said through the comms. "Nova must be terminated before she speaks the final command." On board those ships sat the same council that once created her. They had aged, hidden, ruled from the shadows, and now they were terrified. "Engage all firepower," the oldest counselor said. "No mistakes, no survivors." On the surface, Jace saw the ships entering orbit. "Nova, we're out of time." She turned to the Sovereign. "If I command it, what will it do?" The machine replied, "Corrupt systems will be erased, hostile networks will be neutralized, balance will be restored." Nova narrowed her eyes. "How does it decide who's corrupt?" "By your word." Silence. Jace stepped forward. "You have to think, if you give it the wrong command, it could kill billions." Nova looked into the machine's eye, and suddenly her father's voice echoed in her mind. "You were never meant to destroy, you were meant to guide." Explosions began in the sky. Plasma beams rained down toward the moon's surface. The council was firing. "They'll wipe us out," Jace shouted. Nova didn't move. She walked forward, raised her hand, and said a single word, "Wait." The machine obeyed instantly. Command received. Hold. Shield initiated. A massive energy barrier shot up from the moon, blocking the attack. Red laser shattered against invisible walls. The council ships paused. Nova's voice echoed into space, broadcast to every channel. To those who hunt me, I remember what you did. You broke me, you used me, but you couldn't destroy me. You called me a weapon. But I choose to be a voice. This galaxy doesn't need fear, it needs fire. Not to burn it down, but to light a new path. Nova turned to the Sovereign, and, for the first time, her voice was calm, powerful, certain. I command you. Clean the systems, shut down the wars, but leave the people. This time we start again with truth. The machine paused, then spoke. Order accepted. Reset sequence initiated. What followed could not be called war. It was to fast, to clean, to perfect. From the Sovereign core, pulses of light shot into deep space. Waves of data and energy. Entire fleets froze. War machines stopped mid-flight. Weapons systems shut down. Codes locked. Engines stalled. Satellites rewrote their own programming. No one died. But everything changed. Within an hour, the galaxy fell silent, not from fear, but from peace. Forced. Unnatural, but peaceful. And at the center of it all, standing on the dead moon, was Nova. No longer broken. No longer lost. Weeks later. Rumors spread across the stars. They whispered of the girl who silenced the warlords, the weapon who refused to be used, the queen who never took the throne but built something new instead. Nova didn't return to Orionis. She didn't take power, she disappeared. Some say she walks among forgotten planets, healing what was left behind. Others say she left the galaxy entirely, but Jace knows the truth because he's with her. They walk together. Not as weapon and commander, but as something simpler. To survivors. Two legends, building something new, quietly. Without crowns, without thrones, just hope. And somewhere, beneath a new star, Nova stands alone one night looking up. Her voice soft. You called me a gift once, a joke, a broken girl, but now, they call me something else. They call me a legend.